Hey, what's up YouTube? Today we're going to be talking about why your ex won't talk to you after a breakup and what you can do about it. But if you're anything like me, the first question you're probably wondering is, do I even have a chance of getting my ex back? Well, if that's you, I have great news. I've actually put together a special quiz designed to answer this exact question for you. Taking the quiz is super simple. All you have to do is simply look in the description link below this YouTube video, click on the link there, and it will take you to a page that asks you all sorts of questions about you, your ex, and your breakup. Using your answers, we're going to run them through an advanced algorithm to give you an idea of if you have a chance of getting your ex back or not. And after you've taken our quiz, we're actually going to give you next steps that you should be taking based on your quiz answers. So again, if you want to take the quiz about how to get your ex back or what kind of chance you have of getting your ex back, simply look in the description link below this YouTube video. All right, let's begin.
All right, today we're going to be exploring why your ex won't talk to you, but more importantly, what you can do about that. So, throughout all of the years I've been doing this, there are really three big reasons that stand out to me on why your ex won't talk to you after a breakup. Now, you may be sitting there and wondering, well, Chris, how did you come up with these reasons? What went into it? Well, a lot of it is personal experience from things that I've seen working with individuals one-on-one. But also I looked into the idea of ghosting, right? The idea of where you're talking to someone or entering into a romantic relationship with them and then you just disappear out of the blue. Why do people do that? And I also took research from popular polls, and I'm going to be showing you those things as we go through some of these reasons, right? So the first reason I want to talk to you about is they will ignore you or won't talk to you after a breakup because they don't think being friendly is worth it. And so you may be sitting there and wondering, well, how did you come up with that answer? Well, believe it or not, there was actually a poll done in 2015, I believe. And it asked all sorts of individuals what they thought about breakups. It asked them how often they got back together, if they believed in being friends with after a breakup, all sorts of things. And as you can see, I took one of the answers here and really used it to craft this reason, right? So one of the questions was, generally speaking, do you think it's worth it or not worth it for a person to try to remain friends with an ex after a breakup? Well, 39% of individuals said it was worth it, but 59% said it was not worth it. So one of the common things that I see from exes is they actually will end that relationship or not want to talk to you because they don't think it's worth it. And we're going to talk about self-interest in a little bit and the importance of that and why you need to wrap your head around it. But for now, I'll just give you kind of a quick crash course. Understand that your ex doesn't really care about you. They care about them, right? So if something's not worth it for them to pursue, most likely they're not going to pursue it, which could explain why they're not talking to you. Now, the other reason is a little bit more straightforward. They fear that they're going to hurt your feelings. Now, in order for this one to make sense, we first need to talk about the idea of reasons. Everyone has the same question after a breakup. Why? They want closure. They want an explanation for why one party is breaking up with the other party, right? And oftentimes you'll get a reason, but it's not the real reason. The real reasons sometimes are so dark or you're worried that you're going to hurt the person's feelings if you actually tell them the real reason, that you keep that bottled up inside. And so one of the things that they can do is actually avoid having a conversation about that, which actually leads us to our next reason, right? They want to avoid any kind of awkward conversation. So I want to consider something for a moment for me. What creates this awkward feeling that we get? Well, in this case, most often, it's when one party knows that they have wronged the other party. And it presents us with a choice. Fight or flight. Do we stay and face the music, or do we get the heck out of there? Well, clearly, if you're watching this video and you're sitting there and thinking, well, why isn't he or she talking to me? Your ex has chosen the flight response. They do not want to have an awkward conversation about potentially the real reason they broke up with you. They don't want any kind of awkward conversation, especially if they've moved on to someone else and they feel like they've slighted you. They've moved on to someone else. They don't want to have that conversation to explain that to you. It's awkward. It makes them feel icky inside because they feel like they've wronged you. And men and women, we have this belief that we want to be heralded as sort of the good guys, right? We can't look at ourselves and make ourselves the bad guys. That's just, we're the hero of our own story, right? And the heroes in stories aren't bad guys. They're good guys. And so it makes sense for why they would want to avoid an awkward conversation. Now, the question you're probably sitting there and wondering is, after listening to all of those reasons, what the heck can you do about it? Luckily, there are some things that you can do. So the first thing I want to talk about with you is actually the idea of self-interest and the importance of getting rid of your own self-interest paradigm. You see, the way things are now and the way things need to be, it's going to take some work to get you there. At least from working with individuals, doing this for 6.5 years, I've learned it takes some work to get there. So I want to show you a quick graphic I put together to actually kind of illustrate how things are and how they actually need to be. So right now, it's important to understand that you're self-interested and your ex is self-interested. Now, let's talk about you for a minute. Why are you self-interested? We have this belief that we're selfless. We're coming to the Chris Seiter channel or coming to the website to learn how to get our exes back because we think that's such a selfless thing to do, but it's really not. Getting your ex back isn't about your ex. It's all about you. It's all about that feeling that you have inside, that really awful feeling, depression, anger, sadness. You want all of that to go away, and on some level you understand that if you get your ex back, that will go away. You're self-interested. You only care about what's in it for you. Your ex is the same exact way. They break up with you. Oh, well, sorry about that. They break up with you because they believe they can do better than you. Because they can think they can find someone else that is going to be hitting all of the things that they want out of a relationship. And that's how things are, right? Your ex is self-interested and you're self-interested. Now here's how things need to be, right? And this is the number one issue I see people having all of the time when they come to me. Nothing's going to change with your ex. Your ex is still going to care about themselves. But if you can step outside of your own paradigm, step outside of your own needs, and understand that your ex only cares about himself or herself, it's going to go a long way. And it's going to actually inform what you need to do or say to grab their attention again. Now let's talk a little bit about that. How do you grab your ex's attention again? Well, obviously, if you're interested or you understand your ex is self-interested, you need to be talking about things that are interesting to them and not interesting to you. But how do you actually grab their attention? Like, let's say you've entered into a no contact period, right? And it's time to reach out to your ex. Try to get their attention. What do you say? Well, in my opinion, that's when you need to use a pattern interrupt. So what's a pattern interrupt? Well, a pattern interrupt, quite simply, is something that interrupts a pattern and is designed to catch someone's attention. In our context, the pattern is your ex not paying attention to you, probably because you're talking about either boring things or any of the reasons that we've talked about before. You have to do something to catch their attention. Now, pattern interrupts are ultimately defined by curiosity. You have to do something that makes your ex curious enough to want to respond. And I've got a few example texts here that can really, really hit this point home. So a good example of a pattern interrupt text message would be this: can you keep a secret? Now, this one really harps on the curiosity, right? Now, every pattern interrupt is going to harp on curiosity. It's going to do or say something that makes your ex curious and want to have an answer, right? So the answer here, or the curious aspect or the curious hook here, is the secret, right? You're asking your ex if he or she can keep a secret. They'll read that text and say, well, what is the secret? It intrigues them. They'll respond. Now, that works for some people, but I found, actually, weirdly enough, even more effective is fear-based pattern interrupts. Now, this one is my own creation, and it has yielded a response over 90% of the time people have used it. The problem is, it's a double-edged sword. No one knows what the confession they have to make is. So the text is, you simply text your ex, "I have a confession to make, ... All right? Now, what's the first thing that jumps into their mind? What did he or she do to me? Did they cheat on me? It's always fear-based. Why? It really harps on the self-interest. You see, remember, exes are interested. They care only about themselves. So if you do something that almost ultimately attacks that self-interest, they're going to pay attention. There's also a curious aspect in here because the curiosity is, well, what is this confession that they have to make? Now, again, I said this is a double-edged sword because no one knows a great confession to make. Generally speaking, probably the best confession I've seen is a woman used this on her ex. "I have a confession to make." He responds, "What is it?" She responds with a picture of his favorite football team and her having tickets, and she's attending this game. She says, "I'm at the Jaguars Stadium," or whatever, insert a football team. I just made one up. That's a good confession to make, right? You catch your ex's attention with a fear-based text message, and then you follow it up by talking about something that he or she is interested in. So if you're wondering how to catch your ex's attention, use a pattern interrupt.